Okay, here we go. This video is the technique for the stability ball crunch. Now, I watched a bunch of videos on this, and I can't believe none of these videos seem to really get into why you would use the stability ball to do an abdominal crunch. People get all excited about the instability of the ball, like somehow this thing is going to roll around so much, like Travolta and Deborah Winger and Urban Cowboy. That's not what the ball does. The real advantage of the ball is this convex surface that it has. Because the ball has a convex surface, you can take the abs to a greater range of motion, potentially doing more total work. That's the advantage of the ball. After a couple workouts, the instability of this thing, whatever extra abdominal activation you get, really is largely irrelevant in my experience. So what you want to do is let me demonstrate the technique, and then I'll go over some of the finer points of it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a seat on your ball. Now, you'll notice my foot width. If you're inexperienced at the exercise, take a wider stance. It'll give you better balance. But like I said, after a couple workouts, your body's going to figure this thing out pretty quickly. And you can use a narrower stance to make it a more narrow stance to make it a little more difficult. The big thing, again, is that convex surface. So what you want to do is you want to lie down the ball. And here's the key thing. Take a big motion back. And then take a little motion up. Big motion back. Taking advantage of that convex surface. And a little motion up. Let me demonstrate that from the side so you can see it. So again, wider stance the first few times you do it, and then narrow that stance up once you got the balance down. So watch what I'm doing. I'm taking advantage of the convex surface by making a big motion back over the ball, and then making a little motion up. Big and little. Now it's important you do not allow gravity or your body mass to be what's pulling you over the ball. You do not want to use a passive range of motion on this. You don't want to just drop over the ball. You want to actively use your muscular tension to contract. Whether muscles lengthen or shorten, they're contracting. That's the way they're designed. You want to lengthen, contract the muscle all the way back, and then squeeze it all the way up into this little motion. What you don't want to do, and this is a video on the stability ball crunch, is sit all the way up. That is a totally different exercise that actively involves different muscles. It actually works your hip flexor muscles. You're way better off doing that on a more solid object where your feet are fixed so you can really overload the hip flexors. Very important too, again, so this is the crunch, which is what we're talking about. This is the sit-up, which is a totally different exercise. The other thing you need to keep in account is when you do this, the ball shouldn't move. Right? So you see a lot of people doing this video and they're just like doing this with the ball. They're like, I do 1,000 crunches a day. Well, if by 1,000 crunches a day you mean 0, then yes, you're doing 1,000 crunches a day. You want to not use the ball as a tool for leverage to do the exercise for you. You want to use it as a way to increase your range of motion with this little movement up at the top. Big motion back, little motion up. What else do we want to talk about here? Sometimes people complain about feeling this in the neck. Look, if you're feeling stability ball crunches in the neck, you don't belong on a stability ball. You should go back down to the floor. You have used a shorter range of motion. You have not yet earned the extra range of motion here. Now, people say, well, why don't you do a crunch on the floor? Well, the problem is, unless you have an upper body with a molecular density less than the floor, it's going to be kind of hard to get that extra range of motion. Now, I don't have an upper body with a molecular density less than the floor, so when I go here, I can't get that extra range of motion. Whereas on the ball, oops, let's tilt this up. Where on the ball, I can. Right? Now, if you do feel it in the neck, you should feel it in the muscles of the front of the neck. The flexors of the neck should work with the abdominal wall to do this exercise. If you feel it in the muscles of the back of the neck, or you feel pinching or stinging your neck pain, you're just simply not ready to do this exercise. Now, people say, well, you should put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, behind your teeth. And that'll help engage the neck flexor muscles. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 times you do that, it will. But eventually what you need to have is you need to have neck muscles that fire with the abs, whether your tongue's on the roof of the mouth or not. But it is a little trick you can use 1 or 2 times to start getting these muscles to fire. The problem is a lot of people use that trick when simply they don't have abdominal strength or front of the neck strength, again, to earn the extra range of motion, which is what this exercise is good for. That's about it. So that's the back on ball, stability ball crunch. One more time. Wide stance if you're new, narrow stance if you're a little more advanced, which means have done it twice. Big motion up, little motion, big motion back, little motion up. Don't turn it into a sit-up. Don't move the ball underneath you. That is the basics of the stability ball crunch.